NAPSA, and so it was a pleasure for me to come and, at least for the last 8 months, glean such knowledge, wealth, and experience from him. Bill obviously has been a dedicated mentor and a tireless advocate for all aspects of education abroad. His wealth of knowledge has time and time again served U of M students, professional colleagues across the nation, and the International Center, Student Life, various departments across campus, our entire university, to be honest. And so hopefully you read my email that came out last night that kind of highlighted his impressive career. So with that in mind, I'm going to not rehash that, but share something with you that was sent in from another well-known and inspirational international educator, Dr. John Greisberger, who used to be the director of the International Center here. So one of my best John Greisberger voice. I'm going to read his letter. It's dated July 5th of this year. Hello, Bill, and hello to all those gathered with you to celebrate your impending retirement and your 27 years of service to the International Center, Student Life, and the entire U of M community. I wish I could be there with you on a special day, Bill, and to join many of my former colleagues and friends still in congratulating you on your long and successful career in the field of education abroad. You accomplished much during your tenure at U of M, and I know the leadership you provided over the years related to education abroad will be greatly missed. I want to begin my remarks by telling you again that it was my pleasure and a privilege to have known you since before my U of M days and to have worked with you during my final 7 years in the field of international education. I always admired most your commitment to serving students through your advising and the ability to develop and implement new programs designed to help them clarify and articulate their goals for going abroad, prepare them for the experience, and upon their return, provide opportunities to share not just what they did, but how those experiences have a profound impact on them. This commitment set you and your unit apart from the vast majority of education abroad offices across the country. Programs such as the Michigan International Internship and Service Program, International Career Pathways, the Peer Advising Program, and the 11 Peace Corps Graduate School programs are your legacy, Bill. They provide tangible evidence of what makes you unique as an international educator, of what makes you a role model for other professionals in the field, and what makes you a valued mentor for hundreds of students you taught and trained over the years. There is no question, Bill, that you left an indelible mark on the International Center and on the school and college education abroad offices over the past 27 years. Many campus colleagues can attest to your collegial support, your openness to collaboration, and your depth of commitment to campus-wide community work. But you also left your mark on the field as a whole through your work as a leader in NAPSA, Association of International Educators. Many campus colleagues may not know that while you headed up the IC Education Abroad area, you also served NAPSA as chair of the section on U.S. students abroad, founded NAPSA's subcommittee on work, internships, and volunteering abroad, served on the Committee on Educational and Professional Development, and most recently co-authored a NAPSA book titled Internships, Service Learning, and Volunteering Abroad, Successful Models and Best Practices. Personally, I found it quite remarkable that while leading and managing your area of the IC, you also represented U of M on the national scene, primarily through NAPSA, but also through other national and international organizations such as the Peace Corps, the Institute of International Education, the Global Internships Conference, and the International Association for the Exchange of Students for Technical Experience. You've had an extraordinary career, Bill, and I'm proud to call you a friend and colleague. Michigan has been fortunate to have you these past many years. You have earned your retirement. You can look back on your career with much satisfaction, knowing you have done remarkable work. You should also know that you will be missed in the IC, in student life, and in many other places across this large and complex institution. In closing, I want to thank you for all you've done to advance education abroad at U of M and across the country. We wish you the best as you move into the next phase of your life. Sincerely, John Greisberger, former director of IC.
Bill's been a treasured colleague over the years. I'm delighted to be here to honor his commitment to students, his service to the U of M community, dedication to global education, and I'd like to share a few stories. I first met Bill about 16 years ago, around the year 2000. At that time, I worked in the School of Public Health, where I managed an international fellowship program. For some reason I no longer remember, Bill reached out to me, which is classic for Bill, and invited me to a teleconference. I don't even remember which topic it was, and I know it wasn't terribly relevant to my work at the time, but Bill himself made a lasting and positive impact on me. He was a memorable person. So, in also typical Bill fashion, a few years later, when he had started the International Opportunities Fair, he must have remembered meeting with me in an organization that I worked with, where there were about 25 of us on staff. And so he invited us to exhibit at the International Opportunities Fair. And I know one of my colleagues, if she's still here, Shanari Neal, she was one of the speakers as part of the Career Pathways events, with a focus on global health and internships, and we had funding at the time, so it was a really wonderful place to, for the staff there to present information to the wider U of M community. And later, for alums of that program, they came back and are still coming back as some of the speakers there. And so that's part of Bill's legacy too, and part of the legacy that we had in public health of developing these young professionals, and they really went on to become leaders in the field. So thank you for being part of so many of those professionals' lives too. I really got to know Bill in my next job, which was in kinesiology, and where my professional focus shifted to undergraduate education abroad. I began on October 22nd and attended the first travel abroad health insurance meeting 8 days later. Bill and I were assigned to the same subcommittee and began to work together in earnest. I will have to say a footnote that there were 4 subcommittees. Bill worked on 2 of them. The committee submitted a recommendation to then Provost Sullivan with a recommendation that international travel health insurance be mandatory for undergraduates. This was something that Bill and many others had tried previously and been unsuccessful, so it was really quite something that it became university policy fairly quickly. The impact on my career was enormous. Of course, I was happy to see this landmark for the international travel health insurance, because it was just it was so obvious to me. We had done it for all of our fellows that I thought everyone did it. So I didn't realize that the rest of the university, it was uneven, so that was part of my learning process. But also, Bill introduced me to everyone who was in that room, everyone else who he could think of. He would refer people to me. When we went to national conferences together, he would take the time to introduce me to people, to point out organizations that he thought might be particularly relevant for kinesiology, where global education was brand new. And it became, I slowly started to realize that Bill was really a star on the national stage. It was very exciting, and may keep a low profile here on campus, but whenever you go to these professional conferences, everyone knows Bill. He's a reference point. So I'm really grateful to you that you helped me break into this field and make a lot of personal connections. I'm also grateful for all of the knowledge that you've provided over the years. On these committees, Bill would know other universities who had tried something and it didn't work, or they tried something and it worked really well. And he would not only know which university, but he would say, you know, call Catherine at Michigan State, or, you know, call Sarah at Minnesota. He would know the person to call. And it's kind of that's how I titled my speech for you, Bill. I said, call Bill. Absolutely. Bill would know. Bill told me to contact this person about this organization. And for those of you who are younger than I am, we didn't used to have electronic social networking like LinkedIn and Facebook. We relied on people like Bill, who's really even so much more than those softwares can ever be. He's brilliant at networking and building coalitions and collaborating with other people. And if he cares about an issue, there is no stopping him. You cannot tell him no. He will just come back, and then I'm sure he writes it down. All right, call her the next day or call her next week, because he will not take no for an answer. And when it's something really super important like health and safety, he's been, you need that kind of a person. You need that persistence to get something accomplished. We went on to work on many other committees together. We were on a working group that ultimately resulted in the beautiful Global Michigan portal we have. That's now in its 3rd or 4th iteration. But Bill was part of the committee where we actually brought it up to the century, I think. And that was very exciting, and all of his institutional knowledge was really super important as we were sorting through levels and figuring out who are all these entities and how can we make it so it better serves students. One of the things that I'm most proud about is that Bill and I worked together to help advocate for creating a position and hiring a senior officer for international health, safety, and security. I see Patrick over there who's been taking some pictures. The second candidate in that position, and that is something that really makes many of us sleep better at night, because Bill had he'd been holding things together along with John Godfrey and others for many years, but it was really informal. It was on an as-needed basis because it wasn't their full-time job. And that's a really critical change to the organization. I'm super proud that you were able to help us achieve that.
I can just add something.
Yes.
So I told my friend Joe Hawkins, who was at Kalamazoo College, a few days after, in the weeks after 9/11, and he has his comment in his own way. Amateur hour is over, baby. Didn't help to say it, and he was right.
Yeah, that captures it pretty well. I won't go into some of the details because I've been taking too much time, but Bill and John Godfrey and I went on this wonderful road trip together to Evanston as we were researching and talked health and safety. We went to a forum-sponsored workshop there and met with some of the current health and safety officers and came back and got ideas for our campus. Without Bill's help and lining things up, it would have taken a lot longer to accomplish that. So we were ready when we were ready to strike when the time was right. In closing, I just want to say again, Bill is very knowledgeable, he's persistent, he's dedicated, he's also kind, funny, and committed to making this world a better place. Bill, I want to thank you again for being such a wonderful mentor and role model. I really miss you, and I look forward to hearing updates from the next phase of your life. One final thing, I want to give Bill this handout, because if you've been at meetings with Bill, you know he always gives out handouts. So I thought that was only fitting. I found copies, I'm a pack rat, just like he is, from some of these meetings that we went to, so I just thought you'd be interested.
Is in Malone, who studied in China while she was here. She's now a global entrepreneur. Let that sink in. Doesn't that sound nice? Who conducts business around the world, including in China, and she owns modest furnishings and modernist lighting as part of her expansive repertoire. Wherever you'd like to speak.
Hello everyone, again my name is Rosetta Mitchell. I am a University of Michigan alum of 98. I actually have my degree in international business and Chinese studies, and I am living my dream today. And my dream has been met largely in part by the office that Bill Milting has been running for 27 years. I recall in moving into the University of Michigan, Alice Lloyd, on August 29, 1994. That day, I believe I called Bill and at the Overseas Opportunity Office and asked him if I could come in for an interview, that I was a work study student. And I was looking for an opportunity to work here on campus, and I knew exactly where I wanted to go. So he said, yeah, sure, come on in. It might have even been on a Labor Day. He might have been in the office. So I came in the next business day and sat down in that expansive office, and I just felt right at home. But more importantly, I felt right at home with someone who was very enthusiastic about overseas opportunities for the students here at the University of Michigan. And needless to say, I was hired. And of course, what allowed me to be hired was, prior to enrolling into the University of Michigan, I had already studied in China. I studied on the CIEE program, summer of 1994, straight out of Gary Roosevelt in Indiana. And I was the first Black student on that China program to Xi'an. And it was a program, and CIEE, I'm quite sure everybody in this room is quite familiar with who they are. But they are a very reputable program who organizes, I believe they still may do like hostel cards and, you know, so forth in terms of like international amenities that you can have to help your travels abroad, as well as orchestrate programs. So when I did that program, no one prepared me to what was to become of me in China as the first Black student in Xi'an. And it was very, very difficult. When I returned from that program, prior to enrolling into the University of Michigan, I felt that it was my life goal to expose and prepare students of color to opportunities abroad. When I asked the program director, who was an African-American female, and she had studied abroad in Japan, and she's running the program at CIEE, I said, hey, how come you didn't prepare me for, you know, a time where I was going to be mocked and called monkey and have paper thrown at me and, you know, just experience, you know, extreme racism like I had never felt before. But why didn't you also tell me that I could get a bike, become free, and find ways to navigate and make the best of my opportunity there? And she said, Rosetta, the reason why I didn't tell you is because I didn't want to scare you out of that opportunity. So from there forward, the moment I stepped on this campus, I knew that I wanted to be a part of an organization that would help students of color to study abroad, not be afraid, but more importantly, be prepared. So Bill Nolting, he hired me, and he also gave me the opportunity, pretty much free will, to start conducting the Color Abroad panels, which became an award-winning panel here at the University of Michigan. And I believe it was through you guys are mentioning that international organization, NAFSA, or, yes, exactly. So my panel won an award as being the top panel at one of the conferences, of course, that I road trip with Bill. And I found out he was a rock star. Okay, yes. And one thing I would like to say is I felt very much at home in that office. That office was expansive. No, we did not really have the internet as we have today, but Bill Nolting made sure that each and every student that came into that office had a plethora of information to help prepare them for whatever opportunity it may be, whether it be study abroad, going through Peace Corps, teaching English abroad. If you're a woman traveling abroad alone, he had a panel for that. There was no stone left unturned when it came to pursuing any type of international opportunity there. I know that I spent I always say I spent 50% of my undergraduate education in China, which it feels like it, but I think I calculated last night, it might have been 25 or 30%. Nonetheless, I returned back to China summer '96 on the Fogarty Research Program. It was a minority research program organized here through the University of Michigan. And of course, how did I first learn about that program? Bill Nolting said, hey, Rosetta, there's a program that you need to check out and you'd be interested in. And I went to China and I studied, I did research on Chinese parents' consumer behavior for their child's learning development. While I was there, I connected with General Motors expats who were working at GM at the 4th of July celebration at the American Embassy in Beijing. And they said, hey, how would you like to come back and work for GM? And I was like, oh, that would be wonderful. So when I came back to school, I believe that was fall of '96, I also applied for the University of Michigan Study Abroad program in China, which actually kind of piggybacks off of the UC program, EAP program abroad. And that was a very, very competitive application process. I probably made it more competitive than it needed to be. And that's because I was like, this huge voice on campus for overseas opportunities. And of course, everyone in my Chinese class, they heard about my experience in China, and they all wanted that same experience too. So we were competing very hard for that program, and of course, Bill championed for me, and I was able to study abroad on that program. So I'll say that summer of '97, I worked for General Motors for free. I'll say, in Shanghai, and that's at the time when General Motors invested $2 billion into the Buick factory, which is now the most profitable factory in the world. And I was the only American on General Motors' side that could speak Chinese at the time. And then that fall, I enrolled into university through the program. So I would go to classes in the morning and General Motors in the afternoon. And of course, again, a lot of that opportunity came through the center. Had I not been working in the center, I probably would have never had such prolific experience at that time. And one thing that's very personal, I would like to say about Bill was he was a great champion of me. I come from Gary, Indiana, and I came from a very low-income household. Yet I had all of these wonderful worldly experiences. And there was a time when someone who was a higher up at this university felt that that office needed to be shut down. They felt that that office was irrelevant and it was only for the privileged. Well, Bill pulled me to the side and said, hey, Rosetta, here's the deal with this office. They're ready to get rid of it. They're going to defund it and they're just going to close it. But I want you to come and tell your story. We need you to come and let them know that no matter what your socioeconomic background may be, that yes, you can pursue overseas opportunities. And no, it's not reserved for the privileged. So I came in, and to me, I thought it was like a secretive meeting. Actually, it was kind of like a gauntlet. So it was Bill and I, we were sitting together on one side, and there was like, I don't know, about 6 executives from the University of Michigan, like in a half moon sitting opposite of us. And I had to pour my heart out and let these people know that a young black girl who was a product of a teenage mother, raised on government assistance, attending the University of Michigan, who wanted to be ambassador to China at the time, that was pursuing international opportunities even before enrolling into this university and didn't have a dime in her bank account. And I had to explain and convince them how important this center was. That, hey, when I travel abroad, I come across other students from a variety of universities and colleges across the nation, and they do not have the same amount of resources as we do. Those universities do not send the same number of students abroad as we do. And the reason why we are able to do so is because of Bill Nolte. Yes, he is important. Yes, he is integral. In the total scheme of international studies and international education, no matter what someone's major may be or their background may be. Even after pouring my heart out, they just had these rapid fire questions and I was coming right back out. And I believe that my story ended up saving the Overseas Opportunity Office single-handedly. So, and when it was time for Bill to be a champion of me, he was. And Bill, I am now, well, I guess you could say I've been traveling abroad to China for the past 22 years. Yes, I have been to a few other countries. I've also been to Peru and Switzerland. But my heart lies in China. I do speak fluent Mandarin. I have a 7-figure company in which I'm a manufacturer of commercial modern industrial furniture for hospitality, restaurants, institutions. And as of recent, I have been living in Guangzhou, China for the past 3 years straight. And I just really hope that I made you proud. I continued on with consulting and advising throughout my life. And some of the students who I advised through on the China program that I've competed with, we are very close friends today, and some of them are still in China, like Jay Alpian. Jay's been in China since '98. He's working at Siemens. Holly, she is living in Hong Kong. Yes. Renee is a global traveler. And then we also, if you remember William Nuke DuBose, he studied abroad in Italy. He used to speak on my panels. And I thank you, Bill. Yes, you have, as I told my mother said, oh, but you're super busy. I said, I have to attend this event because Bill has attributed greatly to the success that I am today.
All right. Okay, well, I'm very glad that I can be here today and share this special event with you, Bill and Donna. For those of you who don't know me, I worked at the University of Michigan until last summer as Midwest representative of Cultural Vistas. And Bill played a really important role to establish the Midwest office 15 years ago here on campus. And I want to thank Bill on behalf of the over 500 students that applied and went to internships abroad over the last 15 years through Cultural Vistas. I also want to thank you, Bill, on behalf of all my colleagues at Cultural Vistas. And I'm very happy to tell you that the entire staff collected money to donate on your behalf or in your honor to the Cultural Vistas Scholarship Fund, which is, as you know, a fund that supports students with financial need to do internships abroad. And last but not least, I also want to thank you personally for all the support and guidance that you gave me, especially at the beginning of my presence here on campus and throughout the 15 years of working with you. And although we are now in Germany, my husband and I moved back to Germany last year, and we are not colleagues anymore, I'm very happy that we are friends, and we hope that you will come and visit us one day in Germany during your retirement, because you now have the time, and maybe we can do a road trip in Germany.
Bill's colleagues in the IC, we have a gift for him. And actually, with the colleagues from IC, wave your hands. Quite a few of us are here today. I'm so happy to celebrate Bill's career as well as his future. So I'm going to invite a longtime colleague of Bill's, Joe DuPont, to come and say a few words.
So I thought I would just say a few words tell you a few things about Bill's home life and personal life that you may not know. So, first, Bill and Donna are avid bird watchers. I'm not sure if you knew that, but they spend many weekends on nature trails throughout southern Michigan. And his fact has told me a lot about the local bird population right in Jackson County with our sandhill cranes and so forth. So the first thing that we wanted to present, we have from the International Center, we have a certificate here, and I'll read it and then I'll present it to you. But the first part being that we'd like you to enjoy your membership in the Washtenaw Audubon Society. And a little trinket I found for you, Bill, was this little album of bird songs for your garden. It's a 10-inch record. Yeah. That's a 10-incher, yeah.
Is there permanent equipment to listen to that?
Well, Bill has something like that at home. I've had the honor of being a guest at Bill's home on many occasions, and among many, he is an avid collector and authority on vintage analog sound. And so he recently won top honors at the Michigan Antique Society Radio Club at their annual meet in Kalamazoo. And he brought his 1939 Silvertone console radio and won the Blue Ribbon. Also, if you visit Bill at his home, he has several very fine quality tube radios, Zeniths, and they're not just collecting dust or sitting on a shelf. He listens to them every day. He's a big radio fan of NPR and a lot of local stations. Now also, you probably know, or you may know that Bill has many and varied musical interests. And among other interests, I'd say that he and Donna sponsored the, And they also regularly attend University Musical Society events at Hill Auditorium and other local venues. And also love a wide variety of musical performances, anything from the Ann Arbor Folk Festival, the Detroit Jazz Festival, even the Elvis Festival in Ipsy. Bill and I went there one day, had a great time. And, but also, in particular, what really distinguishes Bill as a true audiophile is his home stereo system. So in his living room, he has two matching twin Macintosh amplifiers. These are not Apple computers. These are 1950s tube amplifiers, and one for each channel, left and right. And he has a comfy chair that when you sit in it, the sound is perfectly balanced. So now every serious audiophile has a stereo demonstration recording that they use to fine-tune the sound of their stereo. So I'm sure Bill probably already has one, but I found one. I went down to Encore Records and found this stereo demonstration record. And for all you nouveau vinyl hipsters, this is a color vinyl. We wanted to present this to you, Bill, so you can tune up your stereo. Yeah. And then we also have a certificate I want to present on behalf of the International Center for, I already mentioned the Audubon Society membership, and also a $100 gift card at the ARC for whatever performance you wish to view. So there you go, Bill.
Thanks so much.
And, in the area, and I'm looking forward to more excursions. So.
Yeah, I've got to make my trip out to Jackson.
Yes. Okay.
Today to celebrate and say kind words to and about Bill. But to close, I think it'd be nice to hear a few words from him. Would you like to say something?
Well, when I heard that Rosetta was going to say a few words here, I put myself at great risk by following her as a speaker. So, and all of the presenters, it's been quite a ride. I did prepare some remarks. I don't know how much I can stick to them, but I certainly have enjoyed my 31-year career in the field of education abroad. And I'm very thankful for the privilege and honor to have spent 27 of these years working here at the University of Michigan in the International Center, which you may or may not know has a very distinguished history in international education, including the founding of the Professional Association, NAFSA, here in 1948 at the International Center. The director was one of the founders.
Not me. I'm gonna go without me. I'm too young for that.
And then Peace Corps. In 1960, the director of the International Center at that time supported the two students, the married couple who advocated to John F. Kennedy for the founding of Peace Corps. We did a lot of the work right in the International Center. So all of this, I think, really should be celebrated and really highlighted in this upcoming bicentennial year of 2017. So at the recent NAFSA conference, I was honored to receive 2 awards from NAFSA for Lifetime Achievement, the Life Member Award and the Education Abroad Leadership Award. Much of my work in this profession has been to advocate for non-traditional education abroad, not study abroad, but experiential learning outside the classroom through internships and volunteering, and then as well facilitating students incorporating these experiences into their future careers in life planning. And we've heard some incredible testimonials here, but we tried to do this through some programs as well on campus. But this approach could be called the Michigan model. But it actually was originally, surely it was going to be whittled away. Everything we asked for. Everything. they went back to their company and said, we've got to do better than this. So, anyway, and so that's in great hands. Another area is collecting data on co-curricular education abroad. I did that for a decade and a half together with CGIS and a number of other events. Now that's being done at the Provost office. So in the most recent year, 5,000 students, about 5,000 students went abroad. 3,100 of them studied abroad, and that would be the total number at the University of Michigan, except that we now count co-curricular. And so in addition to the 3,100, about 1,900 did a co-curricular activity abroad. So we wouldn't know about those students if that hadn't been in place. And now Open Doors, the national survey, has adopted collecting that information since 2010. So anyway, U of M has been a terrific place to work and call home, and I'll fondly remember everybody with whom I've worked here. I did want to mention our other peer advisors who are here. I thank Christy and Rosetta so much for your eloquent testimonials. There's also Jill Peters in engineering, Sarah McNett at the Vice Provost office, Ariel Millette in the International Institute at Argos. I think he made it. Maybe not. He's at General Motors in research and development. And then Brad Jensen was a peer advisor before he met Peggy Wunderbaugh Jensen. And he's been happy ever since. And then past staff here include Susan Gass and Janine Lawrence, who are I believe. And then I certainly wanted to thank my colleagues at the National Center, Judith Pennywell for her support of education abroad and advocacy for it, and especially Louise Baldwin, since we've been back there. Louise Baldwin has been my basically friend and mentor since my first day at the National Center. I think she's the last of the old guard. And then I wanted to thank all the colleagues at the National Center for their ongoing support of education abroad. And I certainly should mention my very special U of M colleague, Marlene, who gave me my start in education abroad, without whom there would not have been a, quote, building. And none of this would have been possible without her. So thank you for all of you here today, for what you have done and will continue to do, for the great work on behalf of U of M students, and U of M, and especially our students and staff. We're lucky to have you